You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to another episode of Innovation Fuel. I am Gelareh.
And I am Dave Kiron. Innovation Fuel is a bi-weekly business podcast brought to you by the University Canada West. We aim to bring new stories by entrepreneurs, business owners, and key industry professionals.
So far, we have explored diverse business models and how entrepreneurs are innovating and adapting to our current environment.
So make sure you check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovation fuel. Introduce a topic. That's what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Gelareh?
It's about female entrepreneurs.
Female entrepreneurs. Do you think it's a lot more difficult for female entrepreneurs to succeed?
I prefer to answer your question this way about my own experience. I came from Middle East. And in Middle East, yes, it's obvious there is a gap between male and female at the workplace or any other places. So when I moved to Sweden, it's one of the most feminist country in the world. So my expectation was that I'm not going to face any more discrimination or glass ceiling. Mm-hmm. But then in my contract, there was a very little sentence that's, by signing this contract, you are aware that you will receive less than your male colleague. It was 2006. So it felt bad because I had the same experience. I had the same degree and I am putting the same effort. On that time, I was just single and just working, right? So why I should receive less? Then I moved to Canada, right? And you're supposed to feel the same way, but as we can refer it to the CBC news pay gap between male and female professors, September 28th, if you go and see it, still you can see that there is, for example, 15% female and male professor gaps in University of Calgary, or for example, 10% of University of Manitoba, or a lot more, you can see it's still in the university.
So there's this element, there's still a glass ceiling here.
It is a glass ceiling. And I stopped to be entrepreneur and having my own business because I became mom. And as a mom, for me, was impossible, to have two roles, to roll as a business owner and roll as a mom. Now I'm a leadership position, still is very difficult because the way that the people look at me is different if I be male. So if I want to be emphasized and be restricted, they don't look at us as a power. They look at it as a different way. It just go and see that the recent presidential debate in the United States, if you just change it with the two women and they heat it up, they won't look at it as something strong. They will call you something bad, and you don't feel. You feel that as a woman, I cannot be angry. As a woman, I cannot be restricted. As a woman, because they don't look at you in the same way. Just other people want to be caring. Yes, caring is good, but you need sometimes to be restricted.
Gelareh, do you still think that these challenges then, when, say for an example, a woman is starting a business, starting an idea, a concept, goes to get some funding, do you think there might be some of these still challenges there that they might be some roadblocks that they would face that their male counterparts might not face?
Yeah, of course. When you are applying for a job or you want to start your business or want to sell your idea to investor, they never look at you say that, oh, are you a mom? Do you have enough time to do it? Or when do you want to be a mom? You have restrictions because of your gender. Because if you want to be a mom, if you want to have a family, it means that you cannot be focused as a man. Just me and my husband, he can be entrepreneur. He can be anything that he wants. He can have several jobs at the time, but I cannot because I'm a mom. And the people even look at me in a different way. Are you be able to do this role? You can do that one because you're a mom, right? So this is not just about the pay gap. It's the way of the people look at us and they look at our success, if you can be successful or not, you know?
Yeah. Well, Gelareh, you're absolutely right. Now, why don't we get this started? Why don't we get this party going? So without further ado, let's ignite today's episode of Innovation Fuel.
We are joined today by Paulina Cameron. Paulina Cameron is the director of a BC and Yukon at Futurepreneur Canada and past president and chair of the Young Women in Business. She served on the Government of Canada's expert panel on youth employment, was a visiting professor at Simon Fraser, and is a frequent speaker and sought-after advisor. Paulina won the Alliance for Women's Top 100 International Women Award and the inaugural Wendy MacDonald Award from the Vancouver Board of Trade.
Okay, welcome to our guest, Paulina Cameron. Welcome, Paulina.
Thank you, Dave. So good to be on.
So, Paulina, we typically like to take our guests down the journey of trying to understand their backstory, where they come from. Our listeners really like to understand where our guests are, how they ended up where they are, like they're leading up to these entrepreneurial ventures or things they've done. Can you give us a little bit of a backstory of your entire journey up to where you are today?
Entire journey? Gosh, yeah, I can try to for sure. Well, I was born in Poland. That is where my journey of life began. My parents and I immigrated to Canada when I was 3 years old. We then subsequently actually moved back to Poland after a few years. So I did most of my education there. I came back here to Canada for grade 12. I went to a school in Victoria, and I have been here minus a few month trips here and there ever since then. So Vancouver very much feels like home, as does Europe. They both feel like home to me. And in terms of my work, my body of work actually started a very different area than I am in now. So I went to university for finance and accounting because I was good at math. That was the natural parallel that was drawn. So I went to UBC, to the Sauder School of Business. I graduated with finance and accounting. In my second year, I got an internship, or a summer placement rather, with KPMG. And so began down that path. While I was in university, I was very interested in some of the community involvement and leadership. And in my third year, I started with a group of women, an organization called Young Women in Business. It came as a result of us attending a lot of events in this city, a lot of business events. One of the things that we were really encouraged to do at Sauder is to go out, network, start building our relationships in the business world. And so I did, except I found it greatly frustrating and disappointing because most of the events I was going to had a white older male on stage. Sorry, Dave, no offense to you.
Not taken.
It was just getting a bit mundane and boring and same. And I wanted to hear from experiences of women. And I knew they were out there, yet constantly kept hearing that nobody could find them, nobody knew where they were. And so myself and this group of women started the organization. We actually started it by doing a conference. So we put together a 3-day, 350-person conference where every single one of the 60 or so speakers was a woman, either entrepreneur or CEO. And it was really incredible, and there was a lot of energy around it. And so when I graduated university, I was graduating into two things. One, I took a full-time role with KPMG in the accounting and then advisory practice. And then two, I was also the president and was running this really growing nonprofit organization. So I led Young Women in Business for about 8 years before I transitioned out. It since grew to have multiple chapters across the province. So it went from a conference to being a volunteer chapter model base across the country. And I worked at KPMG for 4 years, first in their audit practice and then in assurance practice. And then I actually left KPMG cold turkey because I knew that I didn't see myself in the path of public practice for where I wanted my work to go. I wanted to have a broader kind of a broader look at business. I wanted to be learning by doing a little bit more quickly as opposed to being on the back end of business. And I was really interested in entrepreneurship innovation and had a really deep passion for women and leadership. And I wanted things to move quickly in that regard. So I left and I was doing consulting for a few different companies, which I was really enjoying. And then I was invited for the opportunity of a brand new role at an organization. At the time, it was called Canadian Youth Business Foundation. It is now called Futurepreneur Canada, where it is a national nonprofit that provides loans, provides early stage funding to entrepreneurs under the age of 40. I was there for 5 years. I started as a business development manager, which was a new role at the time there. And really my role was to be in the community and find entrepreneurs, small business owners that we could support. And then took over as Western Canada Regional Director a few years later, where I supported all of the teams in the provinces of BC, Alberta, and Yukon. And which is a role I got when I was 8 months pregnant. And then when I was 5 months pregnant with my second child, I took on the role of CEO of Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, which is where I am now. During my time at Futurepreneur, I also ran a food delivery startup with my husband for a 4-month summer pilot, and I wrote a best-selling book called Canada 150 Women, where I interviewed 150 women that had phenomenal stories from across Canada. And 2 babies, a few fun, really cool jobs later, and we are on the call today.
I don't know how you squeeze this in. This is
I might have to eat my lunch while we do this.
And the typical story of an entrepreneur, like when you think about entrepreneurs, this is it. This is the madness of entrepreneurship. But we're moving in multiple different directions.
Yeah, totally. All the time.
Yes, Paulina, I walked away when I became a mom. I walked away being entrepreneur because I found that it's very difficult to manage time, because when you are entrepreneur, there is no vacation, there is no weekend time. So you have to constantly focus on your work. So it was very difficult for me, very difficult decision for me to stop being entrepreneur and just be employee. But so how could you manage this time for yourself to be entrepreneur and mom of 2? I'm mom of 1 just.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, because there's a lot of narrative or story around entrepreneurship is that for some reason, like, you have all this freedom and to do anything that you want, but you're also the whim of whatever your work is and your clients. So I so appreciate you talking about that. And you're right, especially in the early years, it is relentless. And if you're a service-based business and it really relies on you providing the service, if you're not working, you're not making money, or you're not pursuing money. And so the buck stops with you there. So I really appreciate that comment. I will say that I think as a country, even though we're better than our partners down south, but we still significantly lack the social systems and structures to support entrepreneurs, especially mothers. We've seen now data after COVID, when kids are home with their mothers, how many are dropping out of the workforce, how many small businesses are shutting down because you can't do both. Childcare is not a women's issue. It is not a mother's issue. It's an economic imperative, and those systems are social economic imperatives. And when we don't have them, nothing functions. So one, I think the social systems need to change. And, personally for me, I will say what has worked is that my husband and I have what is still vastly unconventional, though certainly we see it changing, but statistically, I don't know, maybe like 0.1% do this, but my husband is actually the stay-at-home parent. Wow. And so I went back to work. I never really was off. I was always plugged into things, and I went back to work full-time with my second when she was 4.5 months old. And at that point, he became the stay-at-home parent with both of our kids. And we also live in a very expensive city. And so that holds its own realities. And so we've made that trade-off that right now we are investing in my work and my career and growth. And we are being very, very lean with life for us to be able to do that, and for our kids to be able to be home with another parent. And, truthfully, for 2 working parents to have full-time jobs, you need to meet a minimum level, because childcare for little kids, like childcare for 1-year-olds, is extremely expensive and hard to get in this city too. So that is a social structure that is very challenging. And I'm a big advocate for campaigns like $10 a day daycares. But until all of that changes, we just face seemingly impossible decisions around this. And I so empathize with it because it's not easy. You feel like you're trading off, you're between a rock and a hard spot, and you're trading off one bad thing for another often.
Exactly. That is what I faced, not just as an entrepreneur, as on my position, which is the leadership positions. I can face it every day. And I think that's a parent or mothers, that any mother or father will both, any of them, that they sacrifice their work for taking care of kids, is part of the GDP. It's
absolutely,
it's part of the GDP, and already recognize it. So it means but it's unpaid work. You're making as society, future society, you're supposed to train them well for future without paying anything, or not getting enough support from the society to be a good role model for your kids, being just working from home or work home as a housewife, or I don't know, husband,
husband, yeah.
It's a kind of work. I mean, even we don't have a good word for the husband not working and staying at home, is staying dad home.
Stay at home dad. That's kind of
we have a housewife, but we don't have the word for men. It's showing that society is still not accepting you. So it's an unpaid job you're doing, and some of you have to sacrifice, and society has not recognized it. And then you are not a good role model for your kid to showing that success, what the success means.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing this story, and I have two daughters, and I have a mother that was an entrepreneur all her life, and still is at 72 years old. Just continues to be strive for this element. There's nothing stopping her, her family element. But what other challenges are facing women entrepreneurs as they start to go out in this world and exploring new opportunities? When they're meeting different types of groups, going out and getting investment. What are the challenges do you think, Paulina, these women are facing?
We've got 10 hours for this conversation, Dave, is that right?
Well, we could spin it over a couple different series.
Yeah. Okay, so let me begin. Let me begin with a couple of stats. And I know numbers can sometimes feel boring, but I think rooting ourselves in reality is really helpful. We hear anecdotal stories, and let's back it up with data. So one data point I'll give you is that less than 4% of venture capital in Canada in 2020, we're talking about current data in the current country we live in, goes to white women entrepreneurs. Less than 4% to white women entrepreneurs in Canada. And I'm not even, and the amounts that go to Black or Indigenous women or other women of color are negligible. They don't even make the percentage mark. It's 0.00 whatever.
You're talking about me, right? I'm a woman from Middle East. Yeah.
You're probably like 0.09 maybe. And so that's on the equity side, which is important because equity financing is money that you usually take when you're looking at big growth, taking risk, and we see the ripple effects of that with how many women are there for running large-scale companies, minimal. And the flip side, so then people say, well, women maybe aren't ambitious and don't want to grow that much, so they're not putting themselves out there, and their businesses really aren't ones that you fund with equity. Okay, well, let's entertain that for 1 second. Women are more than 3 times more likely to be discouraged from borrowing funds from lending.
Wow.
So that argument doesn't hold up either.
Wow.
And what doesn't hold up is any women entrepreneur poll that you go out there and do, and we've done one ourselves. Last year, we polled 850 women, small business owners across BC. 75% of them said they wanted to grow their business. They wanted to grow over 200%. And over 80% of them said they don't have access to the capital they need to be able to achieve the vision that they have. So that also is a baloney statement. Now, let's argue with the fact that, but women don't know how to run businesses, or, they haven't been doing it for long enough, or it's too risky. Okay, great. Let's entertain that for a second. The latest research from last year shows that startups run by women generate 78 cents for every dollar invested, while male-owned counterparts generate 31 cents per every dollar invested. 78 cents. There are 31 cents. That's just the money side of it. That's not all there is to business. It's not just all about the money. There's also, what does it mean for community? What does it mean for your employees? Women are much more likely to provide living wages to their employees. What does it mean when people get a living wage? They can actually live. They can support families. They can stay in the system. They can further contribute to GDP. Women invest more of their money, up to 90%, in their family's health, education, and well-being. Women volunteer more than men. And every women entrepreneur that we've worked with through our programs, they are targeting and addressing at least one of the Sustainable Development Goals, which as a world we have collectively agreed are things that we need to be working on. Women's businesses are addressing them from the get-go. So even if you don't like the money argument, you have the community argument, it's all comprehensive there. This is predominantly for a subset of white and privileged women. When you look at the additional systemic barriers that women of color face that come from any kind of trauma or violence that they've experienced, or perhaps have disabilities, all of these things get amplified to a really, really significant and unfortunate degree. So, yes.
So why?
Yeah. Question, Dave.
I love it. I love it. I think we need to go further. Well, why is this happening? Like, why is this happening? What? How do we change the dialogue? How do we change the story?
Why it's happening, Paulina? Exactly. Would you tell me? I think we both know why it's happening, because stereotyping, because no one believes in us.
Yeah, you've got cultural biases that are ingrained, conscious or unconscious, that have been driving decision makers for years. We also live in systems that are racist, sexist, patriarchal, designed by hetero white men, and these structures and systems were not built to support anything beyond the boxes they were built for. And so you're constantly round peg, square hole, or however that saying goes. And so the systems need to change, culture needs to change, people's perceptions and values need to change. When I wrote Canada 150 Women, one of the reasons I wrote it was because I was so tired of people saying, oh, what's a great leader that we know? Who's a story of someone we should feature? Who's a female? Who's a CEO we should think of? Never anyone would think of a woman's name to suggest for those things. We haven't caught up with the storytelling around it. We haven't caught up around the amplifying of it. Still in 2020, we see too many manels, all male panels, and pieces around that. Just yesterday, I saw an announcement of a program that's a really prestigious program funded by huge financial institutions in Canada, like the big financial institutions of Canada, funded by our government. And it's a program that supports entrepreneurs to access resources down in the States to grow their innovative businesses. Of their nearly 30-person cohort, 4 of them were women, and they were only co-founders. They weren't even just the full founders. They were co-founders. So it continues. It continues, and it is deeply frustrating. And unfortunately, what is almost more frustrating than it being the case is that we expect women to fix it. We tell women that they have to be more confident, that they have to speak differently, that they have to design businesses that are different, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. None of that matters because it doesn't actually change any of that. It's who holds the power needs to change. And truthfully, a big piece that is a bit of a time game, which is also annoying, is most wealth to date still was held in the hands of men, because that's who had wealth. That's how wealth was passed down in families and in businesses. And so it takes a little bit of time for that to catch up over generations too.
Yes, I can totally feel that one. I didn't know that if I come to Canada, I can face this discrimination and inequality. So it's I always, my expectation is from Middle East. If I come to Canada, I will see the fairness, but my challenge was about the way they treat me. I cannot be tough. I have to be nice as a leader. Because I'm a woman. That was my challenge. I have to talk in a different way. I cannot show my frustration because they don't call me. If you are a man, they look at it as a masculinity and power. If you be tough, but as a woman, they call you bad words. If you be tough. Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's a very culture that I faced it. I didn't face the different gap payments, but even investors, they look at you as if you're capable of doing it. I can faced with some of these ones. So can you say that's why how you're going to help women with this NGOs that you have it?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, so our whole philosophy at the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs is that we know that surrounding women with education and resources, and then with the community that's going to support them growing their businesses in accordance with their values and their vision, can be game changing. We've been doing this for 19 years. This organization has been around 19 years. And we do that through our education programs and then plugging women directly into community. So for example, our newest program, it just actually launched this week, is called Money Moves. And in it, over 4 weeks, we are walking women through understanding all the different kinds of capital. So everything from debt, equity, grants, crowdfunding, cash flow management, and helping them understand what it is. And then we're bringing in speakers who have experience getting those, that are talking about, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is how it goes. And so we know that providing them with the unbiased knowledge and lived shared experience from people who have gone through it, and by people I mean women, we're bringing in all women entrepreneurs to talk about how that process was for them. And then 2, putting them directly in front of the right people, that are the lenders that aren't going to ask them those questions, that are aligned. You know, we have I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but we have an informal rule at FWE where it's no assholes allowed. And so the folks we involve in our community are ones that are aligned with those values and get it and want to work with women on those terms. And that's what they are excited about. We plug them into all of the different resources. I think something that's so confusing is you just don't know where to begin at the start, right? It's like, where do you go? What is the first place? How to start? What are all these pieces? And so if we can at least help demystify and walk through that beginning, so that you aren't left wondering all those things and aren't left wondering, am I just dumb that I don't understand what this is? And build up that confidence within you so that you have that as a tool. It's a tool in your toolbox to then continue going down that path. Plus you're surrounded with other women who are also doing it too.
So it's very good. So you are giving the community that people can use their own experience. Yeah, I mean, they can share their experience, right? So do you help them? For example, if a woman comes with a business idea, will you help them to tune a team for them, to help to build a team for them?
So we have a few different programs that we run. So the Money Moves one is all about figuring out the right capital structure for you. So you graduate with a 12-week plan where you go, here's how much money I need for my business. Here's where I'm going to get it. Here's how I'm going to structure all of that. Another program that we run is called E-Series, which stands for Entrepreneur Series. And that is a deep dive into various elements of business. So we cover HR, marketing, finance, legal, etc. And we bring in speakers to teach on those topics. Again, all cohort model, all designed with a gender lens. So you go through that. What we do not do is we don't do one-on-one advisory with entrepreneurs. However, what we do have is a mentor program. So for our mentor program, you come to us and go, this is my business. This is who I am. These are areas that I could really use help in from someone who has experience or expertise in. And we then match you with a mentor for a year to dive into that with you.
So is it any industries segmentation difference? For example, if someone has a business idea in the pharmaceutical, so do you assign someone an expert in that field, or no, you don't have any industries categories?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are open to all industries. And the way we do it is when you apply to be part of our mentor program, if that one specifically, then we find out more about you. And if we don't have someone in our network who already has experience or expertise that would support you, we go out to the community and find that. And what's been really great is we've been doing it across Canada already. And then the pandemic has just amplified the need to do it more virtual. And so what's cool is you also can get a mentor from a totally different province than you're in and build your network that way too. Because the mentor, what's amazing about them, of course, is the experience and the education they share with you, but they also bring along their entire network of support too.
Oh, that is fantastic. Do you connect people with outside the Canada as well? Because some business ideas, it's global, it's born global. So do you have kind of connections with, because I know that these kind of nonprofit organizations, women empowerment, there's all over the places. So do you have a connection with the other countries?
Yeah, we support women entrepreneurs that are based in Canada. If they are looking for resources on, for example, how to export, we do sessions in both e-series around that. And currently in our Money Moves program, we do have a session on how to get financing when you're exporting your business and how to go through that. So that's, trade commissioners and other places. So we'll be the connection point towards that. But our mentors are all Canadian as well. So we focus within Canada for that part.
Yeah, and so you touched on something there, Paulina, that I just wanted to kind of go a little bit deeper on. You talked about the pandemic and COVID-19. What new challenges has COVID-19 and the pandemic brought to your association and to the initiatives that you're trying to do?
So the pandemic has exacerbated the challenges that were there in place before and really shed a light on them, amplified them, made them a lot worse. On the childcare front, when all of a sudden childcare is off the table, we know the implications that has caused. And then continued through the fall when we don't know, your kid comes home with a stuffy nose and they can't go to school for 10 days or you need to do it. Whose shoulders does that typically fall on? Typically the women, because typically we know that in Vancouver, women earn 87 cents to the dollar of a man. And so if you're looking at it from a purely mathematical lens, who's going to be taking the time off to do so? So that has been a significant piece. Same thing for either entrepreneurs or if you are an employee. And then secondly, you know how I was talking about the data around women accessing capital and having less money? What that means when you're in a business is that all the money you have is accounted for. You don't have an abundance of money and you don't have an abundance of cash flow sitting around and waiting when you're an under-resourced business, which many women-led businesses have been to date. So what that means is when, shit hits the fan like it has, you don't have all of a sudden the capacity to pivot, to wait to see if there's a government resource available, to see if you can restart, to do any of these pieces. You are in do or die today and you don't have any bandwidth to shift accordingly. And so that has meant that women haven't been able to pivot, have been hit immediately impacted and haven't been able to rebound or pivot in the same way that they would have wanted to.
Wow. Paulina, before we wrap up our conversation today, I want to ask one thing, and I always ask this of our guests, and I ask is there something we haven't asked you today that you think that our audience needs to know that you would like to tell us about?
Two things. One, if you're a woman listening to this and you're so discouraged after hearing all of this, I would encourage you to not be, only because there are amazing resources that are really available to you and you don't have to be going at it alone. So please don't feel that. I share this because I think we need to know what the circumstances are and what the name of the game is so that you're not going into it blindly. And two, there was a two. Oh, everyone can do something about it. So it's not just governments or big companies that can do something about it. We as citizens all have decisions we can make. Who we vote for, one. And two, we vote with our dollars every day. Who are you buying your lunch from? Who are you purchasing your products from? Who's running the business? Whose coffee shop are you visiting? Whose books are you reading? Whose articles are you listening to? Who is influencing your thoughts? Who are you supporting? Who are you amplifying? Whose stories are you sharing? Those are all decisions we're making every single day. We're voting with our feet and with our dollars and with our with what we support. So I don't want us to feel like we're washing our hands of this and, hey, you big company and government, you have to figure it all out. We can all contribute towards that. What kind of conversations are we having with our kids? How are we role modeling these pieces? There's a lot that we can shift in the day-to-day too.
Thank you, Paulina, for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Paulina. To all our business owners out there, we have a fleet of enthusiastic and knowledgeable students here at UCW that can help you with your business through our capstone project and virtual internship program. So reach out to us. And if you think you have an amazing or a great story that you think our students and our listeners can benefit from, please also do reach out to us at www.ucanwest.ca/innovation-fuel.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Paulina. I hope you all enjoyed Paulina's stories as much with it. See you on the next episode.